You and I remember the hatred of OPEC here. The collapse of OPEC in 1986, Persian Gulf won, the tumult of a China boom, and down we go back to 1960s equivalencies. Which OPEC showed up?
Well, it's a different OPEC. It's a different cycle. And this OPEC is in a defensive mode, and it's going to lose in the long run because the world has changed relatively dramatically since those other OPECs of other points in time.
A cartel is one price. Does Saudi set the price?
The price is being set by a bunch of things. The market and the U.S. have a much bigger role right now than they've done before. And the higher the price goes now, and I know it's an old adage, the more there's going to be oil in the market. And it's not just U.S. oil. It's oil coming out of these unconventional resources in the deep water, in oil sands in Canada. The costs of producing these are now below the fiscal break-evens, well below the fiscal break-evens of these OPEC countries.
Ed, talk to me about demand. Can demand rise significantly to absorb all of, the supply that's coming in from the shale producers?
Well, there's certainly a hope in a bunch of OPEC countries and in Russia that oil demand growth is going to be brisk. But there's a problem on the demand side. Oil effectively is now just a transportation fuel. If you look at oil demand growth over the last 5 years, it's coming from jet fuel, it's coming from gasoline, and it's coming from petrochemical feedstock. The lower end of the barrel used by industry, used by power generation, is no longer there. So it's got a kind of monopoly in the transportation fuel mix, and the transportation sector is changing dramatically, not just because of efficiency, but because of demographics, because of preferences of drivers, and because they're facing competition in the transportation world, both from natural gas and from electricity. So I don't think we're going to see demand responding the way a lot of OPEC countries are hoping. The fact is that the intensity of oil demand relative to GDP growth is falling, and it's not falling at a slower rate. It's falling at a much faster rate than anyone had thought.